Melania Trump just broke her signature silence and made a rare public statement defending her son, but her attempt to shut down the rumors might have accidentally made things so much worse. Before we get to Melania's surprising outburst, we need to understand what set this whole scandal off, and it all starts with Donald Trump's bizarre crusade against Harvard. Here's Chris Hayes breaking it down.
But by now, it is painfully obvious that it is just a convenient rhetorical weapon for Trump and his allies to gain full control of universities. I mean, think about that phrase, ideological capture. That can mean anything. We want to control what your ideology is. They want to rewrite the school's curriculum in a way that is favorable and deferential to Trump and his worldview. Donald Trump wants the most powerful and legendary institution in higher education in this country, arguably in the world, to bend the knee to his whims and become a kind of controlled asset of MAGA. That is the goal here. And yes, let's be clear, it's pretty hard to root for an elite institution like Harvard, right? With a $53 billion endowment. But this attack on the university isn't really about Harvard at all, qua Harvard, and it isn't happening in a vacuum. It is the latest escalation in the administration's ongoing day-by-day battle, and this is going to sound hyperbolic, but I really believe it, to destroy all independent sources of knowledge and fact-finding in our free and open society.
Ah, yes. Ideological capture. A totally normal phrase people use when they want to turn Harvard into a Trump University satellite campus. This isn't about education. It's about branding. Trump doesn't want schools to teach. He wants them to pledge allegiance, preferably with gold-plated textbooks and a required elective in advanced ego worship. And sure, Harvard has more money than some countries, but this attack isn't about endowments. It's about domination. Trump's dream isn't a smarter America, it's a louder echo chamber. And just wait, because this weird little war, it's about to get even louder.
As writer Adam Serwer put it in his latest piece, The Atlantic, by destroying knowledge, Trumpists seek to make the country more amenable to their political domination and to prevent meaningful democratic checks on their behavior. Their victory, though, would do much more than that. It would annihilate some of the most effective systems for aggregating, accumulating, and applying human knowledge that have ever existed. Without those systems, America could find itself plunged into a new dark age. To that end, we are seeing the administration run this playbook towards, again, any independent source of authority. The White House has already pulled $400 million in federal grants for Columbia University, for example. It might try to claw back even more money this week after announcing trumped-up charges of civil rights violations against the school stemming from campus protests about Israel's war on Gaza. In a new piece for The New Yorker, Jelani Cobb, the dean of Columbia's journalism school, quotes one expert who taught at both Columbia and Harvard as saying, quote, "I've studied McCarthyism's impact on higher education for 50 years. What's happening now is worse."
What we're witnessing isn't just a tantrum. It's a full-fledged intellectual purge. Trump's obsession with dismantling America's academic backbone is less about governance and more about authoritarian stagecraft. You see, institutions like Columbia and Harvard represent something that terrifies him: independent thought, critical inquiry, reality, pulling $400 million in grants because students protested. That's not leadership. It's a vendetta, and the civil rights charges, fabricated with all the nuance of a conspiracy theory scribbled on a cocktail napkin. Serwer's warning about a new dark age feels less metaphorical and more like an actual trajectory, because when a regime turns against information itself, what follows isn't prosperity, it's paralysis. And the McCarthyism comparison, even the scholars who lived through that era are saying this is more dangerous. That's like a fire chief telling you the building's already halfway gone. Now sure, the GOP has had an allergic reaction to academia for decades, but Trump, he turned it into a personal crusade, especially against Harvard, the cathedral of credentials he knows he'll never be welcome in. And just when you think it couldn't get more revealing, we've got a clip. Coming up next, we understand how Trump thinks about Barron, and it's unintentionally funny.
So is Barron's aptitude, in your view, business or politics?
Maybe technology. He can look at a computer. I tried turning off his car, turn it off. I turn off his laptop. I said, oh, good. Now. And I go back 5 minutes later, he's got his laptop. I said, how'd you do that? None of your business, Dad. No, he's got an unbelievable aptitude in technology.
Behold, the digital mastermind of our generation. Barron Trump, the only teenager in America who knows how to turn his laptop back on after his dad closes it. Truly astonishing. Trump narrates this moment like he's describing the invention of Wi-Fi. Apparently, watching his son reopen a laptop was such an act of technological brilliance, it left him dumbfounded. Einstein who? We've got Barron the rebooter. Stand aside Elon Musk. There's a new innovator in town. Of course, the real takeaway here is that Trump, a man who once suggested we nuke a hurricane, seems genuinely floored by basic computer use. And to him, this isn't just impressive, it's a sign of genius-level aptitude. Somewhere in Palo Alto, 1,000 tech engineers just blacked out from secondhand embarrassment. Now, here's where things take a curious turn. You'd think that a young tech prodigy, a future CEO, hacker, or digital overlord would be destined for one of the world's top-tier institutions. Harvard, MIT, Stanford. But no, Barron will not be attending any of those. In fact, he's headed to NYU, which is fine. Great school, but not the elite academic empire Trump loves to name drop when he's not attacking it, and that has sparked speculation. Could Trump's bizarre crusade against Harvard, one of the few institutions willing to publicly challenge his nonsense, be fueled by something a little more personal, like, say, rejection? Which brings us to the next plot twist in this reality show we call American politics. Melania Trump, usually quieter than a security camera feed, is suddenly making noise, and it's kind of interesting.
Melania Trump slams online rumors that Trump's vendetta against Harvard is due to Barron. Social media users began to speculate that Trump's youngest was rejected from the prestigious institution last week. In a highly unusual move, First Lady Melania Trump made a public statement to deny claims that her husband decided to go to war with Harvard University because the school allegedly rejected their son Barron last spring. Social media rumors began circulating last week after Trump froze $2.65 billion in federal grants and attempted to block international students from enrolling at the university, a move that a U.S. judge later blocked on Friday. Users on X were quick to react to Trump's drastic measures, with some even suggesting that the president is jealous that the former President Barack Obama's daughter Malia is a Harvard graduate. Melania's spokesperson, Nick Clemens, told the Palm Beach Post Barron did not apply to Harvard, and any assertion that he or anyone on his behalf applied is completely false.
So Melania has entered the chat, and she's bringing denial energy. According to her office, Barron Trump didn't apply to Harvard, and any rumors suggesting otherwise are completely false. Mystery solved? Not quite. Because while Melania's statement is polished and official, Trump's behavior still screams academic grudge match. He freezes $2.65 billion in grants and tries to block international students. All in the same week the rumors blow up. That's some timing. And let's not forget the internet's favorite theory that Trump's having a Harvard meltdown because Malia Obama did get in. Coincidence? Maybe. But boy, it's giving rejected dad energy.
After being accepted to a lot of colleges, Donald Trump confirmed in September last year that his youngest son would attend NYU's Stern School to study a degree in business, where annual tuition starts at about $62,000 a year. An ex-user named Doug Wall was among those who claimed the MAGA outrage towards Harvard is because the school would not accept Barron.
Ah yes, NYU's Stern School. $62,000 a year to study business and probably develop a healthy distrust of PowerPoint. Good for Barron. Honestly, he's doing just fine. But here comes the twist. The internet, never one to miss a dramatic subplot, has started wondering whether Trump's sudden crusade against Harvard is less about ideology and more about a thanks but no thanks letter. Now look, we don't actually know if Barron applied to Harvard, but when Melania emerges from her gold-plated silence to shut down the rumor personally, you know it hit a nerve. She basically rolled out with a press statement saying, "Relax, we didn't even want your fancy degrees." It's giving, "we broke up with you first" energy. But what's really fascinating is how quickly MAGA world goes from "we're the party of common sense" to defund Harvard, "they were mean to us." This isn't a movement guided by values, it's guided by vibes, bad ones, mostly held together with caffeine, Twitter rage, and one man's lifelong grudge against anyone who reads for fun. And Trump, he's not exactly hiding it. Whether it's Harvard, trans kids, or the occasional windmill, his decisions seem less presidential and more like the emotional arc of a real housewife. So no, this isn't about protecting education or draining any swamps. This is about Trump doing what he does best, turning personal drama into national policy, one petty headline at a time. Here's another great example for it.
Now,
Trump pardoning random corrupt MAGA officials, which is what this is a case of, is a scandal unto itself. And Jenkins is far from the only example. But it's especially galling when you consider the people Trump actually does want to prosecute. I mean, it was just last week when Trump called for investigations into several celebrities, Bruce Springsteen, Beyonce, Oprah, claiming that their endorsements of Kamala Harris during the 2024 election somehow constituted illegal campaign contributions. Now, all of those claims appeared to be completely baseless, and forgive me for this one, ludicrously Trumpy.
Of course, in classic Trump fashion, we're tossing out pardons like candy to MAGA cronies with actual corruption records, and simultaneously calling for Beyonce to be investigated because she said something nice about Kamala Harris. I mean, Bruce Springsteen? The man's biggest crime is emotionally devastating guitar solos. This is how Trump logic works. Real grifters? Find people. Celebrities with opinions? Lock them up. But this isn't just another distraction. It's part of a very deliberate pattern, because while the media is busy talking about pardons and pop stars, the real point Trump is trying to bury is coming up next.
But if Donald Trump is going to claim he really cares about illegal campaign contributions, well, then maybe he shouldn't have just pardoned a corrupt sheriff who took illegal campaign bribes to give unqualified people positions of power. Maybe not. And it's not just this one case. I mean, on almost every issue Trump claims to care about, there's a pardon that proves he doesn't really care at all. For instance, Trump and his presidential BFF, you know who I'm talking about, have spent the last several months claiming they are really concerned about so-called waste and fraud in America's entitlement programs. We've covered here on this show how Trump and Musk's changes to Social Security have made it significantly harder for seniors to get help with their benefits, all in the name of rooting out fraud. We've also covered how Trump's big ugly bill in Congress would make dramatic cuts to Medicaid and Medicare, also in the name, according to them, of course, of rooting out fraud.
So let me get this straight. Trump is out here shouting about fraud and illegal donations while literally handing out pardons to guys who were caught red-handed selling power for cash. That's not law and order, that's a clearance sale on corruption. And when it comes to Social Security and Medicare, he and Musk love to wave the fraud flag, while making it nearly impossible for actual seniors to access benefits they've earned. Their solution to waste: starve the system and blame the victims. It's not about fraud, it's about control, and it's about punishing the vulnerable while protecting the powerful. Now, brace yourself. Some truly bizarre statements from Trump and Musk are coming up, plus a truth bomb you won't believe.
I mean, just listen to the way they talk about this basically anytime they are asked about their highly unpopular cuts to these programs.
We have not cut Medicaid. What we're doing, Margaret, is working on fraud, waste, and abuse.
We're also identifying shocking levels of incompetence and probable fraud in the Social Security program.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time.
Let's say Social Security didn't send out their checks. My mother-in-law, who's 94, she wouldn't call and complain. A fraudster always makes the loudest noise, screaming, yelling, and complaining.
I mean, that clip. We're not making any cuts is basically their message. It's all about finding fraud in their definition. And anyone who complains about it must be a fraudster themselves. Now, given their intense concern surrounding this issue, a spoken concern, I should say, you would think the Trump administration would be very sensitive about associating itself with anyone even remotely connected to actual entitlement fraud, right? No, of course not. Because last month, Donald Trump pardoned this guy, Paul Walzak. And what was Paul Walzak convicted for? What was his crime? Here it is from the New York Times. Between 2016 and 2019, Walzak withheld more than $10 million from the paychecks of his employees under the pretext of using it for their Social Security, Medicare, and federal income taxes. Instead, he used some of the money to buy a $2 million yacht and to pay for travel and purchases at high-end retailers, including Bergdorf Goodman and Cartier.
Yes, the old "we're not cutting anything, we're just rooting out fraud" routine. Classic Trump and Musk deflection strategy. If you complain about losing your benefits, well then you must be the fraudster. Very logical. And yet, while they preach financial morality, Trump turns around and pardons a guy who literally stole his employees' social security money to buy a yacht. Yes, a yacht. Nothing says working class hero like cruising past tax laws on a $2 million boat. So no, this isn't about protecting entitlements. It's about protecting grifters. And now, the scandal gets even more unhinged. Buckle up.
In other words, this guy took money from the paychecks of his employees that was supposed to be paid into their Medicare and Social Security savings. It was their money. And instead, he literally bought a yacht and shopped at Bergdorf. And today, the New York Times has new details about how the pardon for that fraudster came to be. The Times reports that Walczak submitted a pardon application to President Trump around Inauguration Day. Then his mother, and here's the key part, was invited to a $1 million person fundraiser dinner last month that promised face-to-face access to Mr. Trump at his private Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida. Less than 3 weeks after she attended the dinner, Mr. Trump signed a full and unconditional pardon.
So let's get this straight. A man steals millions from his workers' retirement funds, blows it on luxury shopping sprees and the yacht, and his get-out-of-jail-free card. Mommy buys a $1 million dinner ticket at Mar-a-Lago. I mean, imagine being one of those employees. You're short on Social Security, and the guy who robbed you is sipping champagne under a chandelier next to Donald Trump. And this is the same Trump who claims to be fighting for the forgotten worker. Please. At this point, he's just fighting for anyone who brings a check and dresses in designer. Let's stop pretending this is anything but a political pay-for-play scheme wrapped in gold trim and sold as justice. But the next part, it gets even crazier. You do not want to miss what's coming next. Click on it. Until then, see you soon.